All right, welcome to our final video for Chapter 11, Part 5, about customer service, right? Um, so, besides just being technical and having our skills and knowledge, right, we need some good customer skills uh, and soft skills. Uh, you need to want to strive and be committed to providing excellent service and treating the customers how you would want to be treated. Um, and you need to be prepared, right? Knowing what customers want, what they don't like, and what they expect from you as an IT technician. Um, Certain traits, right, that are very helpful, right? You need to be dependable, positive, able to listen, use proper language, using slang and things like that can be very difficult for certain customers to understand and know what you're talking about. Try to avoid technical jargon as much as possible. It's kind of hard sometimes because there's no other word for it. But think about your customer, who they are, and what level of technical expertise they have. Need to be culturally aware and sensitive to cultural differences. Definitely have to have patience. You will get into situations where you may want to go really fast, but the customer can't go that fast. So you need to take your time and be patient. Um, you need to be able to take ownership, right? You're responsible. You need to own the problem and work on the problem and be accountable for your own actions. Need to be credible. You definitely don't want people not believing or trusting you. So if you say something, you're going to do something. You be there, do that. If you're going to follow up, tell somebody that you're going to follow up, or you're going to call them, then you should call them. Make sure that you're credible and have integrity and be honest. Uh, uh, it makes a difference, and even not just with customers, but with the other peers. Um, Doing what you say and living up to your word can go a long way, especially in a large organization. You may need favors and assistance from other areas. And so your word and your credibility, who you are, can make a huge difference and make things easier for you if you have your integrity and you're honest. Um, then you should be informed of the laws that impact your work. All right, you don't want to be breaking the law, um, uh, you know, accidentally, or intentionally either. But so you need to know what they are. What you know your field. You may be in financial services, or you may be in manufacturing. There may be different laws that impact you. Healthcare. So know the laws that impact your organization, um, because they will impact your work and what you may or may not be able to do. Um, and then always be professional, right? Dress and behave professionally. Um, it goes a long way into helping with interactions with customers. All right. Uh, do not allow outside influences to affect your commitment to excellence. Always document and track your work. You will most likely utilize a ticketing tracking system or software. Tickets are the main record used to track a request, and everything that happened eventually Ending with what was done to resolve the ticket is stored in the ticket. Uh, and tickets stay open until the issue is resolved. Support staff update the ticket frequently with relevant details so that it is easy to track the ticket's progress. The longer a ticket is open, the more attention and resources are likely to be assigned, right? If it's been open, a day, it's not so big an issue for most tickets. But if it's been open, a week or 2 weeks, management is probably going to get involved, and they're going to find out, what can we do to get this resolved. And so they may put more people onto it, or assign it to other people, because the longer it's open, the more likely it's going to draw attention from management in that. Because we want to resolve these in a timely fashion. But not all tickets are the same. So typically there will be different levels of tickets. For example, you might have low, medium, high, critical, right, as your levels. And a low ticket might typically impact just a single user. Medium ticket might impact 10 or 30 users or a server. A high ticket could impact over 100 users or multiple servers, or a certain application is down. A critical ticket might be the majority of users are impacted, or several different servers and applications are down. And then based on the ticket level, you might have certain timelines to resolve the issues, and it'll vary by organizations. But for an example, a low ticket, right, it impacts a single user, you might have a target to resolve that within 72 hours. But for a medium ticket where 10 or 30 users are having an issue, you might have 48 hours as a target to resolve it. And then a high ticket might have a target of 24 hours, and then a critical might have a target of 4 hours. You might have only 4 hours to resolve it on average, and those are average. They're targets. They're goals. Not all the time will you meet them, but you should meet the majority of them. And then, like I say, it'll vary by organization. Those were just examples. Your organization and area, and it may even vary by area within the organization. The primary application utilized in the primary product or service of an organization might have 24 hours for a low, 10 hours for a medium, 4 hours for a high, and 2 hours for a critical. I mean, because it may be that critical of a service or application, whereas another area within the same organization might have what I said earlier with a 72, 48 hours for low and mediums, and 24 hours for high. But it'll vary. And so you just need to learn what your levels are, what your service level agreements are, as far as how soon and how much time do you have to resolve a ticket on average. When you're contacting customers, right? Customers expect you to be technical, but also personable, right? So you have to have those soft skills and listen. Begin the phone call professionally, right? You should identify yourself. You should write down their name and their number. So if you got cut off, you can call them back. Follow any company policies, as far as obtaining information, what's required, right? Do you need a barcode number from the device that they're having an issue from, or the type of device? There'll be a set rules of what you're supposed to fill out and put in your ticket, right? Be familiar with your company's service company's customer service policies, what's expected of you, what should you be doing, and then you open up the conversation, right? You ask the caller to please describe the issue, right? Um, right. As a technician, you need to be prepared to know the problem to be addressed. Try to identify what the problem is, because sometimes the customer's not all too clear about what they need. So you need to be able to ask probing questions to get at the actual problem. How urgent is it? Is it just a single user? Is it critical? Is it a critical function of process? Does it have a date and time sensitivity, such as payroll? Right? It may be only a single user, but it may be the only person that does payroll in your company, and thus the urgency and level would go up, right? Because maybe it's Friday at noon, and payroll has to be processed Friday at 4 to be able to get it to the bank so that everybody gets paid, right? So the urgency goes up, right? So you got to understand that what is the urgency. Then what kind of device, software, hardware are we talking about? And then if you're going on site, right, you hopefully have an idea of what you need. So come with the complete set of equipment needed. Greet the customer in a friendly manner. Listen and ask questions. Definitely listen. Definitely need to ask probing questions, and figure out what's going on. And then trust but verify, because customers will not always tell you the truth. So it is kind of absurd and funny, but they will. No, I didn't install anything, and you find out that they did install something. I've had people, not tell me that they dumped a pitcher of water on their computer keyboard. That's why it's dead, but if I had known that, I would have also maybe brought the other part, because they fried both the keyboard and the computer, right? They just thought they broke the keyboard, but knowing all the information ahead of time, asking questions, trust but verify. Right? You need to take notes. Keep asking questions till you thoroughly understand, and then, if possible, have the customer reproduce the problem, because a lot of times it's really beneficial to see them do what they're doing, because you might find out that they're missing a step. It may be something very simple, and then diplomacy and good manners. So you try. Especially if they're missing something simple, don't be a jerk about it. Be polite, and explain to them the process, or show them. But try not to be condescending or anything. I mean, good manners goes a long way. And then you need to set and meet customers' expectations, right? So you need to inform them and tell them about the expectations. Give them established timeline. What you're expecting, what you're planning on doing. Will you be back? When will you be back? What would happen if you're not back in a certain time? Will you call them? What's going to happen? You need to be very detailed. Are you going to repair or replace the item? And then help them decide what is to their advantage, right? it may be that the problem they're having, um, it needs corrected, but they absolutely need the machine this afternoon. So, just taking the computer and to go work on it may not be a good solution at this time, right? You need to talk with them and decide, when is a good time to maybe take it and work on it, because there may be some functions or other data that's on there that they need, you know, in that time frame. So, having a detailed discussion about what the expectations are, what's going to happen when, and for how long, if they're going to be without the machine or access to the machine for any amount of time, you need to detail how long is that time so they can get an understanding of the impact to their area and their needs. And it's that communication and being open with them and over communicate. You need to over communicate with the customer as much as possible, to avoid any issues and conflicts that could arise that could make it look bad on you, even though you didn't know. But that over communication helps. That's what I call it, is over communicating, because you can't communicate enough. When you're working on site, you try to avoid distractions, right? Don't accept personal calls on your cell phone or social media, or answer emails, unless they're actually work related. And even then, try to maintain those to a minimum until you're done, right? You should be focused on working on the problem. If you shouldn't have your phone out unless you're doing a search or something, asking for assistance from another support personnel or something like that. But whatever you're doing should be applicable to the call and the ticket that you're working at that time, right? Right, and if you do need to take a call, if there's a work-related problem with your boss or whatever, right, excuse yourself, explain to the customer that you'll return as soon as possible. That communication, tell them what you're doing and why. And then when you're working at a user's desk, right, try not to be obstructive or intrusive, right? Do what you have to do, and get out quickly. Protect the customer's confidential materials. Don't go rifle through their desks or their files on their computer. Unless it's absolutely needed for the actual call and trouble ticket that's been issued, right? Definitely don't take over the mouse or keyboard without permission. Don't close anything without permission. Make sure, hey, do you have this saved? Is it okay if I close this? Those types of things go a long way. Definitely don't close things just thinking that it's saved. You could lose somebody's work that maybe took them all day to work on. And then another thing, though, if you do go to work on it, you might ask them first, have you saved everything? And can we close this down before you start working on things? Ask permissions to use printers or any other equipment, and then definitely don't use their phone without permission. And then right, so definitely accommodate the user. If they have urgent business needs, maybe it's not the right time to do things, or they need access to get something done, quickly. Be accommodating, and then definitely make, ask before you do anything or change anything. Let them know that you're changing it. That over communication. I can't stress it enough. Communicate everything you're thinking. Um, and then definitely don't disclose anything you learn or are doing on social media. Um, and then your goal is to fix the problem, right? But also educate the user as well. Take the time to show them, what you're doing and why. Especially if they can learn something through the process, and then that way you may not have to come back the next time, right? If it's something that the user should have known or could know. Not everything, I mean, if it's really technical and it's not something that they have access rights to do or anything like that, definitely you don't need to walk them through unless they ask, I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. But if it's something that they should know or that they could have done on their own, definitely take the time to educate them. If they have the time and are willing to go through the process. Um, just be professional. Now, working with a customer on the phone definitely requires a lot more patience and a lot more communication, right? You must be able to try and visualize what the customer sees. Especially if you can't remote desktop in, the remote desktop allows you to actually see what's going on. It's much easier in that scenario to do that. But there are times where you can't do that, so you have to walk the customer through on the phone. So being able to visualize what they're doing and explain it to them, it's very difficult and it requires a lot of patience. And especially if you're dealing with a novice user, it really, really will take a lot of patience. Um, if the call is disconnected, you need to call back immediately. That's why you need to, one of the first things you need to do is get a good number to reach them at. Um, Definitely don't eat or drink while you're working with them on the phone. If you have to put them on hold, tell them how long it will be before you'll get back to them. Or maybe say that you'll just call them back in so much time. Might be better. Speak clearly, slowly. Definitely don't complain about your job or talk about issues outside of the trouble ticket that you're working on. Try to keep small talk upbeat and positive, but limited. And then if you're dealing with a novice user, a customer that's not very knowledgeable, be very specific with your instructions. Try not to use any tech jargon or slang. Um, don't ask the customer to do something that might destroy settings or files without having them back up first. Definitely want to make sure everything is saved before you really start working with them. Um, Ask customer what is displayed on the screen, and then try to help track what they're doing, and then try and follow along on your computer if possible, and give the customer plenty of opportunity to ask questions. Take your time, go slow with them, compliment the customer whenever you can, and if the customer cannot help you solve the problem without a lot of coaching, tactfully request the caller have someone with more experience call you back. Now, this one's really hard, but but it may be required. Um, but because it just may be they're too new and they're not able to be coached to to give you enough information to help them. But this should be rare. Um, Most of the time you can do it. It's painful. It's painful and it takes a lot of patience. But you should be able to help most people. All right, compliment the customer's knowledge, experience, or insight whenever possible. Try and slow down your conversation. Don't go too fast. Um, and then right, you need to use problem solving skills, right? So you're trying to figure out what's going on and piece it together. And then definitely don't accuse the customer of making a mistake. It happens. Things happen, right? It's not their fault. Uh, um, Try to be tactful in how you approach or explain things. Um, and even though if a customer does use technical jargon, you do not use the jargon back to the customer. You may lose them because they may know certain words, but not everything. And so try to eliminate technical jargon when you're talking with customers. Um, it's just not beneficial. Now, if the customer complains or is upset, just listen. Let them know they're not being ignored. Let them give them some time to vent, and then apologize when you can. Don't be defensive, right? And then you should know how your employer wants to handle a situation where you're verbally abused, right? Are you allowed to, cancel a call, disconnect a call and have somebody else, escalate it to management, or do they want you to take it? Hopefully they don't want you to take it, um, but there's a way to handle it, and so you'll need to know what that way is for your employer, and your manager will let you know. Um, and then if they complain about a product or service that's not from your company, uh, just don't say that's not our problem. Right? Be sympathetic, be empathetic. Try to help as best you can. But yeah, they may complain that the product or service is complete garbage. You know, just say, I can see where you see that. This is the product or service that we're dealing with. Let's see if we can at least solve the problem that you're experiencing today. Something like that. Um, if a complaint is against you or the product, right, identify the problem if you can, right? Um, Try to correct it if you can. Um, uh, and sometimes just simply making some progress, or reduce the problem to a manageable state will reduce the customer's anxiety and issues, right, and complaining, and they'll make them feel a little better. But you got to understand they may be under a lot of stress and pressure, to get something done, and then they're having this issue on top of it. So understand where they're coming from, and give them a little slack. Let them vent, let them complain. They're having a major issue, um, and you're there to try and help resolve it. So pushing back or being defensive, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to escalate the issue, and both of you aren't going to get what you want. Um, and then try to reflect on ways that you can improve your communication. What could you have done differently? Right. Try to always get better with your customer dealings. And then once you resolve the problem, allow the customer to decide when the service is finished. Right. Just because you think it's finished, they may not think it's finished. Right. Make sure that they're satisfied, before you close the call. And then definitely, if you made any changes or anything, you'll want to reboot the computer, to make sure that you didn't cause another problem, right? Or that it doesn't or it doesn't work after a reboot. Um, so then allow the customer enough time to be fully satisfied that it's working. Ask the user to verify and any restored data, make sure that they've got all their data. Um, then review the whole call with the customer, and then explain any preventative maintenance to the customer. What should they do to help avoid these situations, right? Um, but then there's sometimes that you aren't able to solve the problem, right? So not everybody knows how to solve everything or can solve everything. Maybe you don't have access to solve the issue. And a lot of larger organizations, there's certain people with certain access to certain things. So you may not be responsible for a certain problem, and thus you can't resolve the problem because you don't have access, right? So you need to what's called escalate or assign it to somebody either higher in the chain or even on the same level as you, just in a different group, right? Because they have the access, the expertise, and knowledge. So you need to reassign it to somebody else. But make sure and follow through to make sure the customer and the new support have made contact. You just don't throw it over the wall and think you're done, right? Let the customer know that you've got to escalate it or get somebody else involved. Get that other person involved and make sure that the customer and that person get into contact, and follow up, and just make sure that it keeps going, because just because you're escalating, you're not 100% done. You should make sure that the customer is taken care of, and that the ticket is proceeding. And then, right, with our coworkers, especially in that situation, right, you need to be professional with working with your coworkers. Put business matters above personal matters, right? Don't be personally offended when someone lets you down or does not please you, right? It's work. Things happen, and but definitely try not to bring in personal matters, and keep negative opinions to yourself. If a coworker starts to gossip, try to quietly change the subject. Don't get involved in employee gossip. It is not going to help you. And then know your limitations and be willing to admit when you can't do something and ask for help or escalate the situation, right? It is beneficial that you have some humility and understand your limitations. And it's okay to not know everything. You'll learn more and more. And then if you do escalate it, you push it up, you follow it up and see what they did to resolve it, so you can maybe learn from it. But it's a learning process. We're always learning in IT, constantly learning, and but it's okay to admit that you don't know something. And I don't know exactly what this is, but I'm going to research and find out. Or I don't know what this is, or I'm going to escalate this and get some help. It's okay. We can't know everything. All right. So that is our chapter 11. I'll see you next week when we go over I believe it's chapter 10. But thank you, and we'll see you soon.